Meet Affirm, meet Klarna, meet Afterpay. 3 companies with friendly logos, pastel color schemes, and a product so simple it feels almost generous. Split your purchase into 4 easy payments. No interest, no credit check, no problem. Just tap, confirm, and walk out with the thing you wanted. It feels like a financial innovation. It feels like finally someone built something that works for the consumer. And that feeling, that specific, carefully engineered feeling of effortless affordability is exactly how it gets you. Because buy now, pay later isn't a financial innovation. It's a very old idea wearing a very new outfit. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how an industry that processed over $700 billion in global transactions in 2024 built its entire business model on one simple insight. People are terrible at understanding what they owe when the payments are small enough to feel invisible. Let's start with how it actually works. Because the pitch is so clean, it almost sounds too good to be true. And as this channel has established many times, when something in finance sounds too good to be true, it's because you haven't read the fine print yet. Here's the BNPL model in plain English. You want to buy a $200 pair of shoes. Instead of paying $200 today, a BNPL company pays the merchant the full $200 upfront minus a fee of around 2 to 8% that the merchant eats. Then you pay the BNPL company back in 4 installments of $50 over 6 weeks. No interest if you pay on time. Sounds completely reasonable, almost charitable. Except here's what that model actually does to your brain. Behavioral economists have a name for it. It's called payment decoupling. And it's the same psychological mechanic that makes people spend more when they pay with a card instead of cash. When the pain of payment gets separated from the pleasure of acquisition when you walk out with the shoes today but don't feel the full cost until 6 weeks from now, your brain doesn't register the purchase the same way. Studies show that BNPL users spend between 10 and 40% more per transaction than they would have if they were paying in full upfront. That's not a side effect of the product. That's the product. The entire merchant value proposition of BNPL is that it makes your customers spend more money than they plan to. That's why merchants pay that 2 to 8% fee happily, because the average order value goes up enough to more than cover it. So the BNPL company gets paid by the merchant for making you spend more, and then it also gets to collect from you. Let that sink in. They're getting paid on both ends of the transaction, by the merchant for inflating your cart and by you for the privilege of splitting the payment. It's one of the more elegant double-dip business models ever constructed, and it's being marketed to you as a consumer benefit. Which brings us to the fees. Because remember how we said no interest? Technically true. Structurally misleading. Because BNPL companies don't need to charge interest when they have late fees, account fees, and rescheduling fees doing the same job under different names. Miss a payment with Klarna, and you get hit with a late fee. Miss one with Afterpay, and the same thing happens. And because BNPL purchases are small, frequent, and easy to lose track of, especially when you have 3 or 4 active payment plans running simultaneously across different apps. Missing a payment is not a rare edge case. It's a statistical inevitability built into the product design. A 2023 Consumer Financial Protection Bureau report found that BNPL users were significantly more likely to be overextended, carrying balances across multiple BNPL providers at the same time, often without a clear picture of their total outstanding obligations. Because unlike a credit card statement, there is no single place that shows you everything you owe across every BNPL plan you've opened. The visibility is deliberately fragmented, and fragmented visibility is just another way of saying it's hard to know how broke you actually are. And here's the part of the story that gets really uncomfortable, because BNPL was specifically and aggressively marketed at young people, Gen Z and millennials, people who were either burned by credit card debt and swore off revolving credit, or people who couldn't qualify for a credit card in the first place. And the pitch was framed as financial empowerment. No credit check, no interest, no bank, just a clean app with a friendly interface and a checkout button that makes everything feel affordable. It was positioned as the responsible alternative to credit cards, the thing for people who were trying to be smarter about money. But here's what responsible actually looks like in the data. A 2024 survey by LendingTree found that 41% of BNPL users had missed at least one payment. Nearly a third reported that BNPL caused them to spend more than they could afford, and almost half said they regretted at least one BNPL purchase. These are not the numbers of a product that's helping people manage money better. These are the numbers of a product that's very efficiently helping people spend money they don't have on things they didn't need and feel bad about it afterward. Which brings us to the mechanism underneath the mechanism. Because it's not just about late fees and overspending. The BNPL industry has a structural problem that's been quietly building for years and is now starting to crack. Here's how it works. BNPL companies make money by lending to consumers and collecting repayments. To fund those loans, they borrow money in wholesale credit markets. And the business only works if the repayment rate stays high enough to cover defaults and still leave a margin. In a low interest rate environment like 2020 and 2021, this was a beautiful model. Borrow cheap, lend to consumers, collect fees, grow fast. Affirm went public in 2020 2021 at a valuation of nearly $24 billion. Klarna was privately valued at $45 billion at its peak. The market loved it. Every venture capitalist with a laptop and an opinion called it the future of consumer finance. Then interest rates went up, and the model started wobbling, because now BNPL companies were borrowing at 5% to fund loans they were making at effectively 0% to consumers. The math stopped working. Klarna's valuation collapsed from $45 billion to $6.7 billion, an 85% destruction of paper value in about 18 months. Affirm's stock dropped over 80% from its peak, and the default started climbing as the consumers most attracted to BNPL, the ones with the thinnest financial cushions, started missing payments at higher rates as their own cost of living increased. And the uncomfortable truth is this: the BNPL industry isn't just a scam in the obvious sense. It's not stealing from you outright. It's something subtler and in some ways worse. It's a system that is architecturally designed to exploit the gap between how we feel about small payments and how we actually behave when they accumulate. It's a product that generates most of its value not by serving consumers, but by manipulating them. And it wrapped that manipulation in a UI so clean and a marketing message so empowering that millions of people downloaded it and called it smart money management. The credit card industry spent 50 years building the same trap, and at least had the decency to be upfront about the interest rate. BNPL built the same trap in 5 years, hid the cost in behavioral psychology and fragmented statements, and got written up in TechCrunch as a fintech revolution. Are there people who use BNPL responsibly and genuinely benefit from splitting a necessary purchase interest-free? Sure. Technically, you could also use a flamethrower to light a birthday candle. Possible. Not the point. The point is that an industry processing $700 billion in annual transactions, built on the documented fact that it makes people spend more than they intended, targeting the demographic with the least financial cushion, with fees triggered by the kind of disorganization that product design actively encourages, that industry does not get to call itself consumer-friendly. It gets to call itself exactly what it is: a debt trap in a hoodie, with a very good color palette. So, next time that little Afterpay button shows up at checkout, and your brain says, "This makes the purchase feel more manageable," that feeling is the product. That feeling is what they sold to the merchant, and the merchant paid handsomely for it, because someone is always paying. And in BNPL, it's almost always you. Drop your take in the comments. Have you used BNPL and genuinely found it useful? Or did it end up costing you more than you planned? Because the comment section on this one is going to be very split. And honestly, that split tells you everything about how well this industry has done its job.